Good day and welcome to CDI Talks. My name is Anton Shekhovtsov and I'm the chair of the Center for Democratic Integrity, an Austria-based NGO that analyzes attempts of authoritarian regimes to influence politics and societies in Europe. My guest today is a prominent French diplomat and politician, Nathalie Loiseau. She joined the French Foreign Service in 1968 and she worked for the Foreign Ministry for 26 years. In 2017, during the presidency of Emmanuel Macron, she was appointed Minister for European Affairs. In 2019, she resigned to lead the electoral list of Macron's party, the Republic on the Move, in the 2019 European elections. Today, Nathalie Loiseau is a member of the European Parliament, where she chairs the Subcommittee on Security and Defence. She's a high-profile member of the centrist Renew Europe group, and she has been, since 2020, the group's coordinator in the Special Committee on Foreign Interference in all democratic processes in the European Union, including disinformation. I caught up with Nathalie Loiseau in Paris to discuss foreign interference in European politics, Russia's attempts to undermine democracy, and the challenges of Russia's ongoing aggression against Ukraine. I hope you will find our conversation useful, and if you do like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay updated on future episodes of CDI Talks. Nathalie, thank you so much for this meeting, that you agreed to talk to me about very important topics that we have on our table. And I would like first to ask you about the committee that looks specifically at the foreign interference in all democratic processes in the European Union, including disinformation. This committee was organized, that was launched just a little bit more than 2 years ago. What do you think, what was the main reason to establish this committee?
Well, the European Parliament realized that democracy is under attack. We consider that we are at peace, but democracies are threatened. We saw it with the Brexit referendum, we saw it with the US election in 2016, and there were reasons to consider that we were also witnessing it in the European Union. And we needed a special committee because when it comes to hybrid warfare, if I may say so, it goes in the right direction of the Defense Committee, which I chair, but also on the Committee on Public Liberties, or the committees dealing with digital platforms. So we try to have an overall approach in this special committee. And after 2 years of work, after a first report which was adopted by the European Parliament, we found out that we needed to work even more.
What are the most important recommendations, in your view, coming out of that report and the resolution? Because there are dozens of recommendations.
Yes.
What needs to be done? What needs to be done first?
First, we have to harmonize the national legislations about electoral processes and make sure that no foreign money can finance political parties when they are running for election. This is the case in some member states, but not all of them. We also have to regulate political advertising and the targeting of the audience. We know the role it had with Cambridge Analytica in 2016 in the US, so we have to work in this direction, and there is regulation being discussed right now between the European Parliament and the Council. But we have to look further. We should know for certain, for instance, when a think tank publishes a paper or organizes a conference, who is paying? Because very often you see experts on TV channels talking about the war in Ukraine, for instance. If you don't know what is their daily pay, if they work for consulting companies, they may be consulting companies working for Gazprom, for instance. I don't want to forbid everything. We are liberal democracies, but transparency is as important for something like news as it is for food or beverages.
Nathalie, I know that you visited Kyiv, you visited Ukraine several times already since the renewal of the invasion of Ukraine, now the full-fledged invasion of Ukraine. What are your impressions from those visits? Because the situation changed.
Yeah.
The situation changed. What are your impressions from visiting Kyiv and talking to people?
Well, the situation keeps on changing, but the resolve of the Ukrainian people remains. And when I talk to French military, they always refer to Ukraine saying that there is no good army if there is not a national unity. And they call it moral strength of a nation to support the struggle of the military. And this is extremely impressive. And we know that the Russians simply keep on bombing from a distance because probably they don't want to fight in person. And they don't hesitate to destroy what they conquer. But let's face it, it's been several months since the war started. The Russians had not expected it would last several months. And the territorial gains they made are not spectacular. So there is a strong resistance. For this, we need to keep on supplying military equipment and even to increase the rhythm of the supply, and we will do it. But because there is no way that we can accept that Russia wins this war, but it doesn't go according to the plan, contrary to what Putin keeps on saying.
I know that you personally you supported the idea of supplying weapons to Ukraine from the very beginning, and even before that. That I know it's not the recent turn for you. But I would like to ask you about France in general. As you may know, probably better than me, there is criticism of the position of France in this war, for this invasion. There is criticism of President Macron that he kept on calling Putin and talked to him, although many would say it doesn't make sense. Putin is not listening, he just buying time, or he just using time in order to advance his own interests and not the interests of Ukraine or the European Union. What would you respond to this criticism of France and its hesitance also to supply heavy armaments to Ukraine?
Well, first on armaments, because we were talking about it before, there is no hesitancy. When you know that there are 18 Caesar cannons in Ukraine, it's huge. It's a huge part of our own stockpile, and it's very effective on the ground. And a number of military equipment which are provided by the French military are not made public. It's the decision of the French government. It's classified. As regards the discussions that President Macron has had with Vladimir Putin, we should all remember that Vladimir Putin refuses to talk to Volodymyr Zelensky. So someone has to do the middleman. If not a European, there will be someone else. It might be Erdogan, and we know that it's an ambiguous partner. Or if not Erdogan, might well be Xi Jinping. And I'm not sure I would like it. So someone in the European Union has to do it. It came at the moment where France had the presidency of the Council of the European Union. So Macron decided he would be the one. Each time he was calling Putin, he had talked to Zelensky in advance. Very often it was at the request of the Ukrainian president. And of course he was referring his conversation to Zelensky in return.
In conclusion of our conversation, I would like to ask you about your book. I know that you've already written a book on foreign interference. I presume parts of these book were probably the result of the work in the INGE committee, but probably also in this subcommittee on security and defense. Can you talk a little bit more about your book?
Well, I would like my fellow citizens to realize that we have enjoyed peace for decades, but that right now we are not exactly in peace. Our democracies are under attack. This hybrid warfare is not only something that academics write about as a hypothesis for the future, it's already the present. disinformation, cyber attacks, elite capture, influences through universities or research centers. Liberal democratic model is considered as a threat to authoritarian regimes. Autocrats, they only want to stay in power. The reason for me why Ukraine was attacked by Putin is that Ukraine was beginning to become a counter-model to Russia. A Slav country, able to choose democracy, able to start fighting against corruption, able to look towards Brussels rather than towards Moscow. A success of a liberal Ukraine would have demonstrated all the failures of current Russia. In my book, I'm trying to raise awareness about the situation. We have to understand who is targeting us, who is being targeted, how it works, how methods evolve in time, and how do we have to react without changing who we are. We should not become autocracies just because we are attacked. Look at COVID. In the very beginning of the pandemic, we heard from different sources that it was more efficient to be an autocracy to fight a pandemic. 2 years later, the best protected continent on Earth is Europe. Yes, we debated. Yes, we were divided. Yes, it was difficult. We struggled. We missed some opportunities. We didn't do everything right. But at the end of the day, we were able to protect both our citizens and our economies and our liberties. So that's a good example that when we realize what's at stake, when we organize ourselves, we can protect our values, we can protect the way we live, we can remain democracies and fight against this other virus of autocracy.
On this very optimistic note, I would like to thank you, Nathalie, for this conversation, and I wish you good luck with your political work and also work as a person who wants to enlighten your compatriots about foreign interference and the challenges that we are facing.
Thank you.